and if they expect me to walk away from Luton with nothing, I'll make very sure there's nothing to walk away from.
Hello and welcome to the Oak Road Hatter podcast, coming to you after Luton Town's first ever Premier League victory. It was, of course, a 2-1 win against Everton. Jamie Castle, you were there. How was it?
Yeah, still on cloud nine, I think. And yeah, as you can see, I'm in a slightly different setting this morning. I had to stay at my parents because of the pesky train strikes. But yeah, everything that all the Luton fans had to do to get to Everton, be it go up Friday and stay over and come back today, Sunday that is, or have to drive up. It's completely worth it to be there for Luton Town Football Club's first Premier League victory was special. And yeah, at the end when that full-time whistle went, everyone was just in absolute elation. Yeah, you can tell I've got my voice still, but it's a bit croaky this morning. So yeah, just incredible.
Kieren, like me, you weren't there yesterday, but how are you?
Not bad. I mean, shout out to the Manor, because whilst I was not in Everton yesterday, I was seeing the Manor's final ever gig. And if any Luton fans watching this, or anyone watching this for that matter, know who the Manor are, their music is absolutely top notch. And the fact they're sort of calling it a day was sad, bittersweet, but it was also it was a weird sort of mix of emotions last night with that ending. Luton Town winning their first Premier League game, and it felt like just a nice sort of full circle moment of like, look how far we've come, sort of following their music for years, but then look how far Luton have come, getting that result last night. So, like Jamie, my voice is a little bit coarse at the moment. I mean, I'm running on about 4 or 5 hours sleep, but hey, boys, come on, Premier League wins.
So we are now just 7 points off Derby's infamous 11-point total of whatever season that was. Edging closer, and hopefully by this time next week it's even closer. We'll start today with Too Good, Too Bad, and we are starting with Andy Peacock on Twitter. Too good, scoring from set pieces and an effort to deliver game plan, and his two negatives were injury concerns and soft goal again. Come to you, Jamie, first. Scoring from set pieces, 2 goals from set pieces after being, I wouldn't say wasteful, but we haven't been as productive as we could have been from set pieces so far this season. And, you know, Premier League is all about fine margins, and set pieces can be massive.
Yeah, spot on. And I think we've got centre halves and a centre forward capable of getting on the end of some great deliveries from. I mean, Doughty's delivery yesterday again was spot on. To have the centre halves that we do with Lockyer and Burke and Anderson, and then Carlton Morris up top, that they're all capable of being able to beat their man and get on the end of it. And we did warn Everton early on. There was sort of 2 or 3 in fairly quick succession. Lockyer on the end of it, over the bar, was close. Morris on the second, it got a deflection, and then the third one, Morris on the end of it, hit the crossbars. It was a bit gutted having captain Morris in FPL, but Lockyer on the rebound to close down Ashley Young. Just the desire from him to want to close down Young and sort of to turn the ball back in the net was amazing. And then the Morris goal, again, another incredible delivery from Doughty. Morris peeling off the back of Mykolenko. I mean, we're saying what a fantastic goal, but Everton are probably saying what an awful sort of just mix of defending, how you let our centre forwards in so much space. But then again, on I think it was the full volley. It might have taken a slight bounce before, but either way, to just take that first time and put it past Pickford, unbelievable finish, and hopefully that would do a world of good for Carl's confidence.
And Kieren, going on to the negative aspects, injury concerns. We went into the game with a few question marks over certain players. Obviously, some players didn't feature, some did. Having an additional layer of injury concerns added to what is a congested fixture list up until the next international break, you can see why that's a negative.
Yeah, and injuries are always sort of a focus of concern, right? I'm hoping that the Anderson for Burt change at half time was more tactical than it was based off of an injury. But even so, I think if he's made it there, it suggests if there was an injury, it wasn't major, and it was just we're doing it just in case, rather than play on, we'll do it at 60, which was a good call. Lockyer one is a bit more concerning when obviously we'd heard he'd pulled something the week before. He missed Exeter on Tuesday, and then he goes off injured today. The one thing I will take solace in, however, because I like to turn negatives into positives, is Mengi comes on, and according to what I've heard from a lot of Luton fans, played so much better than he did on Tuesday. It was almost like Jamie sort of used the analogy with Kabore with the mistake. It was almost like those lads needed not a terrible game, but just needed a game that was quite subpar in terms of their own standards from Tuesday, to then come out today and be like, right, now I understand what is really expected of me, and now I know how to raise my game, because by all accounts, every single player on that pitch raised their standards from Tuesday.
Yeah, I think the Burt change was enforced. So as you say, hopefully it was a bit of an early sort of like a just in case type thing, rather than let's risk him and be even worse. And hopefully same with Locks and Alfie. But yeah, on the changes, big shout out to Anderson yesterday. I thought first half Calvert-Lewin had a bit of joy against Lockyer. I think Lockyer wasn't his usual sort of all winning every battle set, although he did win quite a few of the duels. But second half, they put Anderson in the middle to start with and moved Lockyer out on the right, and Anderson was fantastic, won everything, didn't give Calvert-Lewin anything, which is a massive positive if Lockyer is out.
100%. And moving on to Adam, he has got in touch with Too Good, and it is basically saying what Jamie was saying there. Mads Anderson coming on and slotting in with no issue and stopping the immediate threat from Calvert-Lewin, who we all know is a real physical threat. His second one was, again, something we've touched on already, much more threatening from set pieces. The too bad was started very slow, could have been 3-0 down within 10 minutes. Jamie, was the start troubling for you? Did you think we're in for a long afternoon when it did seem to go all Everton's way at the start?
We definitely started slow. I think 3-0 down probably is a slight overreaction. I think they had a few pot shots from outside the box. I think the Dwight McNeil chance was the big one, but sort of on the volley and just flashed past the post, and the keeper was definitely beaten. Other than that, it was just a few shots from Garner and Gay, and it just wasn't. Again, of course, one of those could go in, right? Like, because we're in the Premier League now, and they've got the quality to be able to put it in the back of the net. But I think if you're limiting less creative centre midfielders to shots outside the box, I think you're doing okay. There wasn't really anything that was absolute clear cut where their fullbacks get in behind and flash across, sort of flash across into the box. Like, it wasn't anything that I thought shit like that. That was like a really fantastic chance. But no, we started slow. But other than that, I thought going forward we looked threatening, and sort of around the sort of 10-15 minute mark we turned it, and that's where we had sort of the corners in succession. So yeah, started slow, but ultimately you're away from home at a team who's on the back of two fantastic wins, who at home obviously have not had the best of times results wise, and the fans were desperate just to get a win. I mean, even a point from them yesterday wouldn't have been a great result, so they were desperate to get a win. So they were always going to start strong. So to sort of see that through and come out everywhere and to go 2 up was brilliant.
And Adam's second bad element was defence caught slacking on a few occasions, but it did improve as the game went on. Going over to Instagram now, cousin Oliver Mulley got in touch, who was also at the game. Work ethic was the first element that was good, and then the second element was clinical in the final third, something that we can all be happy with after, feeling like we were the better side in the last 2 Premier League games, feeling like we could have come away with more than we actually got. To be clinical and take our chances and the other team not take their chances, I think. It's good to see that that's sort of swung round in our favour. And then going on to 2 bad injuries, as we've alluded to already, and giving up a lot of chances. I think the XG was quite high, but ultimately they scored 1, we scored 2, and we're talking about 3 points. So we're the real winners. Let's go on to our own analysis of the game. Again, Jamie, I'm going to start with you. You were there. You got to see it with your own eyes. We'll speak about Lockyer and Morris's goals, set pieces, and watching Match of the Day back yesterday. I think it was Miko Richards who pointed out the intelligence of using a player to screen and then our other player having the space to jump and get efforts in on goal. That was, when highlighted, it looked very, very easy for us. But ultimately that takes a while on the training ground to make sure you perfect. And we've done it really, really successfully.
Yeah, and Edwards in his post-match presser called that out. I think like Macca, Trolls, Richie, Pilks, all and the rest of the staff all worked really hard to try and gain those fine margins. And as you say, on Match of the Day, there was loads of times where you've got Tom Lockyer free in the box, you've not got to play around him for 2 or 3 yards. Likewise for the goal, Morris managed to peel off when the header was very unlucky to hit the crossbar. But then it's sort of on that second phase, I think. Yeah, Jared Brantford was almost tying Lockyer down, right? And just the fact that he just let him go and closed down Young for the goal, it shows the desire. So it was something that they obviously looked at, and it worked to almost perfection. I would say it wasn't quite perfection because we had probably 3 or 4 more chances from set pieces where we could have scored, right? So I think it certainly could have been more from that avenue. But yeah, as you said, in the 2 good, 2 bad section, it's almost been needed. I think so far this season we've not made the most of set pieces. I think a lot has been made of not scoring from open play so far, but I think we need to have a lot of joy from set pieces. I think you can't just again rely on open play. And actually, I think if you look back at the end of the season, if we stay up, I reckon a big proportion of our goals will come from set pieces, be it your Alfie Doughty free kicks or corners. So it's so important that we start getting that confidence from set pieces and just start winning those aerial duels at the right time. And I think just to end, on the way back, bumped into Palace fans and we were just having a chat about the league, and I was saying, I think the one thing as a supporter that I've learned in this league more than most, it matters so much more what happens in both boxes. Okay, the performance overall does matter in terms of transition and on the counter and so on. But I think where we've dropped points so far this season is because we just weren't good enough in both boxes, both defensively, keeping them out, and then offensively, just having that final pass or final shot. And it sort of came to fruition yesterday in terms of being amazing in our own box, keeping them out, and then also making the most of the chances that we created.
And at the top of that, you're speaking about Tom Lockyer's goal. I think on his own socials, he put something that said top bins, which it was quite funny to read, and especially when you watch it back. It's definitely full of desire, but not the cleanest goal you ever see, but we'd take them all. We have to take them all.
It should make it even better that it came off Ashley Young, doesn't it? Even better, even sweeter.
Yeah, it does. Makes it 10 times better. Stick with you, Jamie, as we spoken about already, injuries to Lockyer and Burke meant that Mengi and Anderson came in. Alluded to Anderson already, but Mengi, did he look like somebody that's ready to play Premier League football? Is he ready, for example, come Tuesday, if Burke and Lockyer are unavailable? Is he somebody that could step in and, you can be confident in doing a good job?
Yeah, I think he'll step in and do a job. I mean, I'm not going to get carried away. It was 20 minutes away, and you just had to sit in and do what a defender does, right? I mean, ultimately, as a centre half at that level, the bare minimum should be to be able to defend your box, and he did that well. I mean, I think if you look at the way they finished, right, they almost went to a 4-2-4. They had Better and Calvert-Lewin, and then they had McNeil and Harrison, and then they changed McNeil for Danjuma. So like that front four that they ended on would frighten a lot of teams, having Danjuma, having Jack Harrison, and having Better and Calvert-Lewin up top. Like that is a difficult test. So to stand up to that was fantastic, and it's not about always winning that first contact from the cross. It's at the bare minimum putting enough pressure on the centre forwards in the air. And Beto won 2 or 3 headers when the ball got crossed in, but there was just, I think Mengi and Anderson just applied enough pressure just to put him off and force him to put the header over the bar. So yeah, defensively, I think he's more than ready. But then I think on the other side of things, we need to see how he does in sort of like the more attacking side of play. I think Wiesberg gives us so much going forward as well. So can't cast too much judgment on Mengi or on that at that point, because he didn't really have a chance to show that, because it really was just backs against the wall and do what a defender does. But yeah, if he has to start on Tuesday, then so be it. You trust him.
And Kieren, of course, Dominic Calvert-Lewin got on the score sheet just before half-time. A little bit of a scrappy one, a little bit of an avoidable one. But for us to, concede at that time, have another 45 minutes to play where Everton were obviously going to pile the pressure on us, to lose 2 significant centre-backs in that as well. How impressed were you with the fact that we managed to keep a clean sheet in the second half and see out a very, very important victory?
There's a lot to take from it, and I think the key thing is more the mental side of it. Like, you sort of look at the games we've had so far this season, and we've struggled to pick up points. But you look at that game, and most people, when they concede just before half time, people often look at it as a momentum switch, right? It's like, oh no, they're getting back into it. They get the half time they need to recoup, and then they just come back and essentially just come out and smash you, right? Not necessarily in a scoreline, but in terms of performance and play. But for me, the fact that we've gone in conceding just before the half, and whatever was said in the dressing room at half time evidently has worked mentally, because for 45 minutes we've stayed strong, we've stuck to the game plan, and we've frustrated them. And this is the thing, is what we've been saying all season is we have been wanting to frustrate teams. That's how we're going to get points, is just stopping them from doing their thing. Because that's all we did in the Championship, was frustrate teams, punish them on the counter-attack, and score lots of goals. And we're growing into that. Like, it's easy for us to say, and the key thing I've been saying to people is, like, everyone's not watching our games as a whole. And I've been saying, like, we are growing into each and every game, and each game we get stronger. Each game we show more character. Each game we look more likely to win the game. Should have got points at Fulham, should have had points at West Ham. And then we come into today, and I'm thinking, yeah, thank God, because that shows that we have mentally, that result is going to do wonders for us now, regardless of who we play, because we've got over that barrier of you can win a Premier League game, because we have now. We're the first promoted side of the 3 of us to win a game. I guarantee that no one will show us that respect, but I'm just making an observation. First promoted side to win, and we will continue this trend. We've got Burnley next, we've got Tottenham after that, we've got Forest, and we've got Villa. That's a big 4. But in those 4, Burnley, winnable. Spurs, fine. Forest, yeah, I'd like to think it'll be tight. Villa, again, similar brackets, Tottenham. But the big win is not just the 3 points to me. The big win is, you could see it in the full-time scenes that Luton posted on Twitter, is the mental gain that we're going to gain from that, is the resilience that we've gained from that. And people can sit here and say, well, it was only Everton. So obviously they're going to discredit us at every given opportunity and say, it's only Everton and Everton are bad. They've just come off with 2 big wins. We lost on Tuesday in the Cup. They went and beat bloody Villa. They also then beat Brentford away before that. That is not a mean feat by any means. So for us to beat Everton, regardless of their league position, when they're on form at the right time, is a big, big, big mental win for me.
And you could see it at the end. I think that the override of feeling and the players, I think obviously there was elation, but it was relief. I think you looked at like Alfie Doughty's face. You could just see him like almost screaming into the air, like finally. And it's almost that verification of why can't we? Like why can't we stay up? But why can't we win games? So that mental, like you say, that mental benefit going to Burnley is massive. And then I think you've got what people saying about it being only Everton, but Arsenal went to Everton and only won 1-0, and they're one of the best sides in the league, right? As you say, Everton went to Villa and beat them in the Cup 2-1, and okay, it's the Cup asterisk in terms of you're not sure what sort of side they put out, but Villa then went to beat Brighton 6-1 yesterday. So it like that's a massive win for them, and then going to Brentford and winning at Brentford is like that's a tough place to go, no matter how Brentford are doing at the minute, because I think they're struggling so far. But it's just a massive win, and Everton are a massive club. They're a great club. Their fans yesterday were fantastic, and it's a club that deserves a lot more than what they're getting at the minute. But for us to go there and win, and okay, you think stats wise, Everton probably deserve to get something in the grand scheme of 90 minutes, but you're finishing that game, and as fans, we're thinking that's a fantastic away performance. Like to go there, and I think on the whole, I think you probably deserve the win for the effort and just the grit that we put into the performance, and that will add so much going forward. And I can't wait for Tuesday.
That's the thing, like the players and Rob Edwards have all sort of said separately or as a collective, like, the fans really need a win from us, like this, that, and the other. And it's like, as much as we've loved needing it, and as much as we're happy that we've got it, I'm more happy for them that they've got the win rather than for us. Like, we're here no matter what. Like, they could, like we said, they could have lost all 38 games and we're not going to go anywhere. But for them, they needed that more than we did, because we're always going to back them. But for the sake of future performances, like I said, like that's going to shape our season. It's just games like that. We've had the tough times of we should have deserved points. And it's easy to say that because all people look at is the result in a game of football. Go, well, it was 2-1 West Ham. But it was 1-0 Fulham. It was 1-1 against Wolves and you didn't beat 10 men, with no context. But what we did yesterday is now people look at that game and go, well, it don't matter because you won a game. Like, they'll eliminate context from that and say, well, you've won. But that, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And they've worked so hard at the start of this season, and they absolutely 110% deserve that yesterday, because they deserved it earlier. We followed them all the way, and of all the places to get it, they decided to do it 3-4 hours up north in Everton, or in Liverpool, sorry, which is bloody wonderful. So long may it continue.
Merseyside is going to be our new Yorkshire.
I hope so. I hope so. Matching at Anfield.
Merseyside is horrid.
Well, there was another, I guess, selection dilemma with Lokonga coming out with his injury. Pelly came back into the side. And you mentioned it before, Jamie. You mentioned the fact that Everton's midfield is physical. They're very athletic. They outmaneuver, outpower a lot of teams. But Pelly came in next to Nakamba. Nakamba won man of the match, I think, looking at the poll that Luton Town put out on Twitter. It's good to see that the pair of them play together against, not saying it was much of a midfield battle because not too much actually passed through the midfield, but for both of them to return solid displays against a difficult Everton midfield, only positives.
Yeah, as you say, the game was played down the sides a lot yesterday. But for the performance that they needed to put in, I think first of all on the camera, I thought personally probably had a shaky start at Brighton and Chelsea. I think he was okay without being amazing and could certainly do better. But the last few games and yesterday I thought was outstanding. I think the stat is now he's won the most tackles in the league so far this season, having played a game less than most players. I think he's exactly the player that we wanted him to be coming into the season on the back of what he did to drag us up last year. So first of all, massive shout out to Marv. What a player, what a signing. And then Pelly, I mean, I would call it the second coming of Pelly, but I think by now it's about the eighth coming of Pelly, right? In terms of the amount of times he's been put in the dump in the dustbin by a lot of fans, and he's just managed to fight out of it and grow and grow and grow. And it wasn't the full confident Pelly yesterday. I think he played a bit in himself, but maybe a little bit to do with a different role. I think last year playing in an 8 had less defensive sort of work to do because he had the screen of Marv behind him and was alongside another 8. So now to be in a double pivot and sharing that defensive work with Marv, he had to put in a slightly different performance. But I think that will do him a world of confidence. And I think the more he plays there, the more he'll grow in confidence and the more he will take risks. I think Paddy's at his best when he's allowed to take risks and has the confidence to take risks. And I think him growing in confidence is going to help his performance so much. So I really hope that we win on Tuesday to grow that confidence even more. And I think if we do that, that midfield pairing is going to be very interesting against Bissouma and Sarr. That would be a great matchup next Saturday.
We're going to head into a short break, but when we're back, we will speak through Burnley at home this coming Tuesday. We are back for part 2 of today's episode, where we will be previewing Tuesday's clash against Vincent Kompany's Burnley. Of course, you have to call them Vincent Kompany's Burnley. They're not separate. They're completely the same thing. And it's now an interesting, well, of course, it's already an interesting game, but the fact we've got 3 points on the board, 3 more points than them, makes this a brilliant chance for us to build on the momentum, build on Saturday's 2-1 victory at Everton. They are still winless, of course. They won the league last year, looked fantastic. Predictions were that they would do very well in the Premier League as well, and it hasn't quite started for them as of yet. And I think what we've seen so far from them, based on Burnley fans, is that they've played good football at times. A little bit like us, where they've had difficulties in both boxes, but they've also had a very tough fixture list. Jamie, what have you made of how Burnley have started this Premier League campaign?
Yeah, it's been very, very tough for them. And let's not make no bones about it. Last year, they were the outstanding team in the Championship and fully deserved their promotion. And you completely understand why pre-season all the neutrals and the pundits were voting them to be the sort of the best promoted team. So no concerns about that whatsoever. But yeah, it's been a tough start. I think when you have a transfer strategy like they do, it can be very high reward, but it's also very high risk. I think if you look at our transfer strategy, I think the ceiling of what our signings can do is going to be lower than the ceiling of their signings. Like if you look at Koleosho, his ceiling for me is higher than Ogbene if everything lines up. But fundamentally, for me, Ogbene is the lower risk signing in terms of establishing himself in the league. He was always going to find that step up just a little bit easier to start with, and that's just one of multiple comparisons that you can make across their team. So yeah, it had a tough start. I think the fixture list hasn't been kind. They've already played City game 1, played Spurs, been to Newcastle, played Villa, so they've had a really, really tough start. So I think that famous old saying of Nathan Jones about being in somewhat of a false position might be accurate. And I think for them, they're probably saying that their season starts on Tuesday. So I just hope that for them, the season doesn't start on Tuesday and it starts on Saturday instead. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting battle.
Yeah, and as you've alluded to there, it has been a very tough start, tough fixture list. It's 1 point from 6 games. They're sitting 19th, currently ahead of Sheffield United because of goal difference. It becomes a massive, massive game, Kieren, in the context that if they win this, they will be licking their lips. They will be potentially above us. And the notion of their season starting Tuesday becomes very true. But the flip side of things, if we win, there's the potential that we could go up to, I think, as high as 13th, and the difficult start quickly gets eradicated from people's minds, especially the neutrals, and we start having a little bit of, there's somewhat of a safety net of we've achieved a lot in the sort of 2 weeks. So looking at this game, looking at everything that could possibly happen, how important is it for a bright start, one of those Kenny nights where us fans are very much upon it?
It's one of those where, as Jamie's granddad does before every game, he starts smacking his arms like this and he goes, "Get into him," because that is genuinely
Shout out to
exactly
Ray.
what we need to do. Hey, shout out to Ray. Bloody love you, man. But yeah, it's just one of those where, on a serious level, we just need to get into them and continue the momentum from Saturday. It's, respectfully, I've put Burnley down to finish 11th this season, and so far my predictions are shocking. So hopefully that trend continues. I'm so sorry, guys, but your season can start next Saturday, please. Cheers. Because we just need to continue the momentum. It's one of those things where Burnley as a whole will probably stay up, fine, but they've had a tough start, regardless of who they've played. And you obviously, on paper, you look at before the results, you look at their start and you would go, yeah, they probably would struggle to pick up points there. But regardless of who it's against, they're still underneath us. They've still not won a game yet. And as I said with us, with the getting a win builds that momentum and builds that confidence. Losing constantly dents that confidence, even against teams that are on your level or underneath it, depending on who you ask. And we're back at home, coming off the back of a win, just like the West Ham game and just like the Wolves game. The Kenny is going to be on fire Tuesday night. There's nothing better than an evening game under the lights at the Kenny, especially as it starts to get cold as well, because everyone needs that energy, so they find it from somewhere. I am very positive about Tuesday. I know that Burnley are a good side, and I will never disrespect them purely from a playing perspective, because they are a top side. You saw how they played last year. They've got it in them. I just think at the moment, it easily biased, fine. But I think based off of momentum, based off the fact that we're the home side, based off the fact that I think we have really started to find our groove, and I think even Rob has found in his head what this best 11 looks like, because we've seen the same 11 2-3 games in a row, which is positive. I think we come away with a win on Tuesday, and like we said, we go then to 7 points. We even go above Chelsea, which is funny. That's hilarious. But to not just be creeping outside the relegation zone, but I know it'll only be 7 games in, but to sit quite comfortably above it on 2 wins. Oh, doesn't that feel nice? 5 points away from beating that record. Yeah, fine, do it.
And just on the Kenny, I think the impact of the win against Everton, it isn't how the Kenny starts, but how it reacts to potentially going behind. I think if we lost at Everton and then go 1 down to Burnley, I think it would just deflate the Kenny so much. But now the Kenny will start rocking. Obviously, it will start at a high level because of the win and the fans that were on so much energy after the win at Everton. But now there's that faith that actually, if we do come across a bit of a stumbling block and go 1 down, or we find it tough in the first 10 minutes, the Kenny will find that strength and that energy to just go again and get behind, because we've got that win, and that that shows just how much that win at Everton yesterday was worth. So hopefully the Kenny can have one of its famous nights under the lights, and yeah, just cannot wait.
Let's hope so. And we were speaking about the Everton game there, Jamie, and you mentioned that it was played on the wings for the most part. There wasn't too much central building of play. But again, you look at Burnley, they're a team stacked of talent in wide areas. You look at us, you look at the success that Chio got against Wolves. And again, he put in a decent performance, him and Alfie against Everton. Are you expecting a similar kind of approach where the game is played on the wings?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's because whufc too. I think if you look at the combination of Doughty and Ogbene, they have had a fantastic 2 games in terms of their starting of that pairing. And then if you look at Burnley's right, you've got Connor Roberts, who has always been a bottom Premier League top Championship player. And he's going to have hopefully a tough game on Tuesday. So I think the playing down the wings is going to be something that we're going to look to do. Because even on the right, Kabore and Brown, it's obviously not quite at the heights of what Doughty and Ogbene has done, but that side is still strong as well. But away from that they've got a solid core too. I think Cullen and Berger obviously haven't signed the latter from Sheffield United in the summer. That is a good pair. Josh Brownhill just ahead. So that is a good midfield freak. Obviously, it's clearly not one of the best in the league, but that's a sign of how strong the league is. So I think that whether it's played on the wings or in the middle, it's still going to be tough to beat them as it will be all season long. There's some really interesting battles. I think for me, Lyle Foster's probably one that I look at. Didn't play on Saturday because he was suspended from the game before, but he's probably the one player that I think can lead the line well for Burnley and get a goal or 2.
Kieren, do you take much from how the game panned out last time against Burnley? We were remembering it correctly. We played very, very well. We lost 1-0. I think it was Ashley Barnes' penalty. But we were fantastic. We were brilliant. We really took it to them. And it was a good sign at that time that, we're not just knocking on the door of the playoffs. We can actually compete with the best teams in this league. And, on the day we were the better side. Do you think we'll take confidence from that? Do you think we'll learn lessons from that? And how much of that game can you apply to this one coming up?
It's tough, isn't it? Because obviously when we both played last, we were in the Championship, but we were both at the top end. So we were 2 of the better teams in that league. And now we've both gone up. And now we're 2 of the teams that people look at and go, that's where our points come from, which is weird to think that of a Burnley side that did they have just under 100 points in the end? I don't think they quite made 100. And then against us, who obviously finished 3rd, best ever Championship finish and won the playoffs, we're playing some really good football. I think in terms of what to sort of, if you compare Burnley versus Luton 4 or 5 months ago to Luton versus Burnley now, it'll only be tactical tweaks. I think both sides will have obviously had to adapt tactics ever so slightly. Like we were so used last season to a 3-4-1-2 or 3-1-4-2, sorry. And their formation hasn't changed either. Obviously, we've made subtle adjustments, playing more of a 5-2-3. So, like, there's certain aspects where we're overloading on the wings a little bit more. That's our focus. Burnley are used to sort of having overlapping fullbacks and that as well. There's a lot of tactical stuff that has remained the same, but there'll be like the odd little tweak depending on new signings that makes you go, actually, we're now going this way instead of that way. Will it be a better game? Yes, because now we're all Premier League players, right? So you just automatically have that step up in quality and that step up in standard. But in terms of drastic changes, I don't think you'll see it from either side. I mean, whilst we've changed formation, our sort of ethos has remained the same in terms of how we play, which is heavy on the wings, a little bit more possession, but in turn, we're a lot better on the counter. They love to have the ball, but it's going to be interesting. It's a nice matchup. It'll be sort of a testament to how far both sides have come since April when we last played, is how well have these teams adapted to the league, and the winner on Tuesday night will prove that.
Let's go to some lineup predictions. Jamie, who will be the starting 11 come Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, entirely asterisked by who comes out of the Everton game with enough fitness. I think if you look at the Burnley game v the Spurs game, what game do you risk fitness in? And it's probably the Burnley game, right? I think that's the game where we're most likely to get points. So even if Lockyer or Burke are at 70%, you probably risk them for Burnley just because that's the game where points are massive. So I'm going to use that as my foundation for the prediction. My prediction is unchanged. I think. Why would you change it? I think there was lots of 8s and 9s and 10s out of 10 at Everton, and okay, it'll be a different game as far as we'll have more of the ball and we'll hopefully have more of the play in the opposition third. But I think the good thing about our system at the minute is that we can do both. I think massive shout out to Brown or Benny in terms of their defensive work on Saturday in terms of tracking the Everton fullbacks. But they're as equally good going forward. And I think, as I've said a few times since that pairing formed against Wolves of Benny and Doughty are just electric. And not only am I looking forward to seeing them against Mikel Yoshua and Connor Roberts, but God, I cannot wait to see them up against Kulusevski and Pedro Porro. They're going to cause them some issues on the weekend. So yeah, not much more to add. Really exciting. If everyone's fit and comes through, then unchanged. And hopefully, if there is an injury, it's only one of Lockyer and Burke. And if that is the case, Anderson comes in with no issues whatsoever, because I think he's been fantastic whenever he's been called upon the last few games.
Kieren, what about you? Are you going unchanged as well?
I'm going to go sort of all the two players that went off injured on Saturday. I would assume Lockyer is more likely to miss the game. I'd like to think Burke is back in time, but his injury record doesn't protect my confidence very much. But saying that, I'm going to go, the only change I will make is Anderson in for Lockyer, and aside from that, unchanged lineup.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I can add. Of course, a lot will come down to fitness levels. That front three is electric at the moment, and I can't see us deviating from that anytime soon. That leaves us with some score predictions, and we got a comment the other day saying how positive we are with score predictions. You feel you have to go into every game with confidence, and funnily enough, the one that they picked it up, the confidence we had was the one we actually went on and win. So hopefully more of the same. Mr. Optimistic, Jamie Castle, what are you going for?
Yeah, so if that commenter can comment again that we're always optimistic and that he now doesn't believe our score predictions, just do that in every pod we do. So then it means hopefully we'll keep winning. But no, yeah, I'm obviously the ongoing reputation I've got is that I'm optimistic. But how can you not be after the result of the weekend and going into a game where if we are to stay up, we need 3 points. And given I have the armband on Carlton Morris in FPL, full faith that he's already 1 goal up on Haaland with 1 game to play. So that was a great shout even now. But Luton Town 2-0, Carlton Morris brace, 1 being a penalty, 7 points on the boards, above Chelsea if they don't beat Fulham, which is now today or Monday actually they're playing. So yeah, Luton Town in mid-table Premier League football.
You'd love to see it. Kieren, what about yourself?
So based off the Everton match preview I put out the other day, I need to find my crystal ball somewhere because I was absolutely spot on. 2-1 Luton. Thank you very much. So 2-0 Luton.
That's got to get clipped up. That's got to get clipped up. That crystal ball. The pause as well. Everything
just
about
love that little hand rub. What the fuck was that?
I don't know if I like it or not. I didn't find the ball from anywhere.
I can't wait for the impending cringe comments that you're going to get. Oh, it's going to be unbelievable
Honestly,
to watch as a neutral.
I'm surprised that I've not had any comments like that so far this season. 6 games in, and no one's gone, who does this guy think he is? And I'm pretty impressed. But by next week, lads, I will have a crystal ball for you.
I'm going to end it. It's also going to be a victory. I'm going to go for 2-1 again. I'm going to go for the same scoreline. Morris to get on the score sheet again. I'm feeling a bit of Alfie Doughty as well. I think he might get on the score sheet.
Love that.
He deserves it.
Yeah.
He deserves it. He does deserve it. Whether it be a set piece or contributing in the final third as he does also often, I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to go for 2-1. Going to go for, I think it'll be a good test. I think there's going to be large spells of the game where we're under pressure, but I think we'll have enough, especially with 10,000 Luton fans in the ground. I think it's going to be another one of those special nights at the Kenny under the lights. That is all for today. Big thank you to the pair of you for joining, and a big thank you to everyone watching and listening. As we've mentioned in the previous pods, we're also planning a giveaway, so make sure you subscribe to Oak Grove Hatter on YouTube. Until next time, when the Burnley game is done and we're looking ahead to Tottenham Hotspur, well, we'll see you then.
Uptown.